Yo, what is going on, everybody? This is your boy Sean, aka Puff Comics 83, and welcome to another Friday episode of Talking Movies, where I'm joined by my co-host, Varangian Vigilante. How's it going, my man?
I'm in a fantastic mood today. So, very much looking forward to it. Now, when it's finally 10 p.m., so we can start to talk Goodfellas. Yeah. Really fantastic day so far. Like I was actually tired the whole day, but now I suddenly got the second wind.
Yeah,
I have enough coffee in here.
Yeah, I had a crappy week this week, but let's talk about that and more talk about Goodfellas, man, because this masterpiece of a movie released in 1990, and we're talking this movie on the day of loss because 1 year ago on this very day, Ray Liotta, the star who played Henry Hill in this film, passed away.
Way too soon. Yeah.
Way too soon. And, last year when we got the news, we was like, man, we got to talk Goodfellas. And, a year went by, and I was like, hey, May 26th, that's the perfect day because he passed away on this day a year ago, so we got to talk Goodfellas.
And it's Mafia May, so we already talked a lot of mafia movies this month. So it's like a double. Of course, I would still prefer him to be still alive, but it fits very well in there. Yeah.
And also last year we also lost Paul Serrano, as well.
Yeah.
So that's two big actors in the film that died recently.
Yeah, and of course also I've just forgot the name. Who plays Paul in The Sopranos? Who also has a very small part in the Goodfellas.
Bats. Yeah.
Yeah. Also sadly passed away, and of course also Billy Batts, the actor, passed away a while ago. It's sadly that we're losing a lot of actors, especially who plays like the older man in this movie. But Ray Liotta still was way too young to go.
Yeah, and considering the losses we had just within the week, last week we went live and heard the news of Jim Brown's passing.
Yeah.
So.
And it was this week Ray Stevenson, from my favorite series Rome.
And he's my definitive Punisher in terms of how his presence and stuff. Yeah, he's fantastic at the
He was a really cool Punisher. And he was also hilarious in The Other Guys.
Oh, yeah. But this movie, many people will consider it the definitive mob movie.
I would totally agree with that.
You really get the sense of the mob culture and how they operate, and the certain tiers of the capos, the hitmen, the gangsters, and all that stuff. This is definitive. When it comes to mob movies, this is always up there high on people's list of movies you must watch.
Yeah.
And Goodfellas is one of those movies that you can watch it, and we talked about this backstage. It's 2 hours and 40 something minutes, and yet it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, it's actually the first mob movie that I've ever seen.
Yeah, this movie moves at a brisk pace, no slowdowns, and every scene is important. From Henry and his wife Karen, the mistresses.
Yeah.
Then you got Jimmy Gintz, you got Tommy DeVito and Paul. Everything is important.
Everything, and there's so many details, what you only pick up later. I remember when on one of the rewatches, when Karen goes to Jimmy to pick up the check, the fur jacket or something, and then you have to walk in there, and then you have the red light, don't walk, and one way that points the street sign in there. Yes. This movie is genius, Scorsese did a shitload of fantastic movies, but I think this is his masterwork. This was I remember that I was still in high school, must have been I think 12 or 13 years, and I was up late, and this came up I think around midnight at some channel, and it just started and I was totally drawn in. And then they replayed it again at I think at 5 in the morning, and I stayed up and I watched immediately like the replay they had like on the channel. And this not only like that was my first mob movie that made me interested in watching like The Godfather and other movies, but also since like the end credit, it was like the first time I heard like Sid Vicious, the cover version of My Way. It's like I think after that I also bought like a Sex Pistols album.
Nice. Yeah, this movie definitely influenced a lot of things, and it definitely like made me more aware of, because this movie was released at the height of John Gotti's run, when he was starting to come down, when Sammy the Bull, became an informant and stuff like that. So, like, this movie was a huge part in a lot of things, when it comes to the mafia. But I love the opening scene where you see the three characters riding in the car, the noise being sounded in the back trunk. And as soon as they open up, you see this body in there that you later found out is Billy Bats. Tommy just go start shanking.
At least he got his revenge in Casino.
Yes. And then you get the classic line from Ray Liotta as Henry Hill saying, "Ever since I was young, I always wanted to be a gangster."
Always in the movies, I always rooted for the bad guys.
Yeah. And then he goes through his monologue as a young teen, being admiring the mob, and it's almost like when we talked about Bronx Tale and how what's the name was always infatuated with the mob at the corner.
Of course, like it's alluring, But of course, when you a young kid and you see back in the day, and you're like basically like in a low class, like in a very like ethnic neighborhood, like Italians, for example, like, and then you see, your parents, they have to work hard to bring food on the table. Like everything is a struggle. And then the scene out there, like these people sitting with the best suits, with expensive watches, with expensive cars, and it seems like they're doing nothing.
Yeah.
So
and yet they live in the life.
Exactly. So it's of course very alluring for like a young kid that grows up in a very struggling neighborhood to say like, "Hey, I want to be like that."
Like you got both parents taking care of you.
Yeah.
The father working a dead end job and trying to make ends meet. But then you see these guys on the streets with their flashy suits and watches and stuff, and they're like, "Man, I want to be like them," And it's like you said, it's so alluring. You get trapped as a kid wanting to be that way. And
especially since the American class system is not so built that people rise on the top like without sports.
and I like how he keeps cutting school so he can be around them. And the mailman delivers the letter, and he gets a beating from his dad because of it. And they're like, "I can't do this no more. My dad will beat me up if I get that letter from the school." And then they go straight to the mailman and beat him.
Like, is this your mailman? Yeah.
Nothing gets delivered to that house. It comes to us first.
Yeah.
And then they put him in the oven. I'm like, damn. He's just doing his job.
Yeah.
And that was the fear that the mafia had over the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like they were respected, but they were also feared. And that was the thing. Like, do you want to cross it? Anything you do or say can cost you your life. And people knew that's why they never really challenged them, and that's why they got away with a lot of illegal activities.
Yeah, especially back in the day, and what I love about this series, since it covers also like 3 decades within the Italian mob in New York, is that you can really see, it begins basically like when the good times for the mob were like still rolling, and it ends when after the Rico and everything, when it's really like when it shows that the life is over. Of course, like I think also nowadays, like the mob is still in some things, but You know,
It's
it's
not.
it's different. It showed in the beginning, you know, to go for like 2-3 years in jail, or for like a few months, like in juvenile or something, or for 20, 30, 50 something years, like to prison, because then people start singing. And this
And,
was then the downfall. Yeah,
yeah, because they were living great during like from the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
yeah,
But by the time the 80s came and the high value drugs got involved, that's when things started to really slow down. And of course, you
yeah,
mentioned the RICO law. That played a huge part in
yeah.
it as well. But
It's also interesting. I think they showed it like also in The Sopranos. You know, when Tony was in Italy and he saw like what the Gomorrah they had like for power. It's crazy. It's like it's still, especially in South Italy, the mafia runs everything. Like I remember when I was from the university in Sicily, and we looked at some excavation sites, and we visited like some cities, you know, where some battles in the antique times were fought, and we were like in Cella, where basically Gelon von Cella, which was one of the most awesome Greek. Strategists and the warlords like came up, and you know, we were just walking through like the city center, and I was sitting down with a professor of mine, and suddenly an old man came to us, like he's like stereotypical dressed like you would imagine like a mobster, and he's like coming to us like, hey, who are you, what are you doing here? And we're like, oh yeah, we are like we're here, you know, from Austria, we are making like this university trip. And you can really see like how happy he was. Of course, like tourists bring money in, and he was so friendly. Oh yeah, welcome. You can clearly see like he ruled like this part. And Sicily for tourists, it's one of the most safest destinations, because the mafia is basically it's forbidding anybody to steal from tourists, because the tourists bring the money and they don't
yeah,
want to have a bad rap, so the tourists stop coming. So it's like so safe there as a tourist. Like the only thing you have to be afraid of is wild dogs.
that's interesting, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's still to this day, like in Sicily, they're still living the high life.
High rollers, baby.
Since the Italian government gives a fuck about the South.
And another thing I love about Goodfellas is the hierarchy of who's capo, who made men, and
Yeah.
like this movie really like showed you mess with a made man,
Yeah.
you either dead or they're gonna dig a hole for you in somewhere in the woods.
And also, you can only become a made man if you're like pure Italian.
Italian, and which is what Henry Hill and Jimmy the Gent couldn't become made because they had Irish ancestry as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that like tied into the hierarchy of the mob and what it takes to become a made man. And I liked that. I liked that it showed a little bit of that. And Paul, gotta talk about Paul, the man who moves slow, but he ain't got to move at all.
Because he has to move fast.
He doesn't have to move fast. He's a man who observes. He don't like too many big conversations with a lot of people, one-on-one. Don't even use the phone, which is smart because that comes back to play later on.
And the acting, like especially like in the end when Henry Hill turns and he's like in court, that look that Paul gives him, like those knives out of his eyes, like this look of disappointment and hatred, like it's perfect acting.
And he was disappointed when Henry came for help. He said he gave him what, 3,200, and then said, I gotta cut you loose. Basically, you ain't got no protection from him.
Yeah, but even in my opinion, he was totally in the right, since Henry, of course, broke the taboo of dealing drugs, and I also really liked it that Paulie. I said, I know what you were doing in prison. I was looking the other way because men are gotta make his money.
So,
hey, Kenneth, but like now it has to stop. and
Exactly.
he didn't stop. So yeah,
And he even foreshadowed about Jimmy and Tommy, you know, because Henry brought them along and got them involved in the drug business.
yeah,
But he foreshadowed that Tommy is just unhinged and Jimmy could be highly risky.
yeah.
And I think low key, Paulie knew that Tommy had something to do with Billy Bat's death.
And Paulie knew everything, and he was, he was like one of the leaders. He knows everything, but he also knows when he has to play his cards.
Exactly.
He's a long-term planner.
He's the type that there's a reason why he don't move. He likes to stay in one spot and just let things grow around him.
And he already knew that some people were already dead men walking, and they just have to walk. One day they're gonna walk into a room and they're not coming out of it.
And you know what the sad part about his ending was that he told Henry, I don't want to be in jail. I don't want to die in jail. He's like, this guy, he in jail for life, gonna die in jail because somebody was a snake behind his back.
Yeah.
In his own organization. So he told Henry, I don't want to be that. And yet Henry's the one that ratted him out, put him behind bars where he died in jail.
Yeah.
So it's like you hate to be that person, to tell somebody I don't want to be this, and then that person goes behind your back and stabs you.
Yeah.
Send you right to prison.
Absolutely. And this is like the great thing that Scorsese does in his movies is, of course, you always know everybody belongs in prison of them. Like, they're all gangsters, and none of them is like none of them is like a decent man in terms of you shouldn't kill and shit.
Oh, the real life Paul was savage. Like, he was nothing like what he portrayed in the movie.
I mean, also like with Tommy, like it's like Tommy is fucking crazy in this movie, but the real life one, like
yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
But another thing is, I liked the scenes when they were in prison during the middle of the movie, and Paulie and them were just living good in prison, like cutting up meat and stuff like that, dining. It shows you that no matter what, when you have that status as a capo, even in prison, you're respected and feared.
Yeah.
And you're living good.
Yeah. And the thing is, this scene is also so iconic. Like, they did like a Goodfellas cooking book, and also in You, Me, and Dupree, when Dupree was like cutting like the garlic, it's like when they learned that from, it's like, oh, I learned it from the Goodfellas.
Hey, this movie did make me hungry at times because they were eating good.
I think the first thing I was like cooking pasta shooter after when I rewatched it. It's like this. Yeah, this. You really want to eat some really good Italian food after.
Yes. And back to like the beginning where Henry Hill is narrating his childhood and talking about how the gangsters are living that great life. He like, you don't want to be no smut working no 9-to-5 job, living paycheck to paycheck, trying to figure out how you're gonna make it in life. Once you're in this life, fast cars, money, you steal anything you want and get away with it. And it's like, man, you setting up your own downfall because you're gonna end up as that smut at the end. And exactly, I love it how it comes back around.
That's so fantastic, yeah.
There's so many things in here that really come back around.
And the thing is that he actually he had like the best outcome because usually in that life you either go to jail or 6 feet under.
Pushing up daisies.
Or even more feet under when you have like a cement block tied to your legs.
You just better hope they don't dig up your decomposed body because they're planning on building stuff there.
I mean it's still today, in especially like New York, Chicago, when they're rebuilding something, and there's like when they're finding people in cement.
especially in Staten Island. That's where
Yeah.
that's where all the mafia guys lived in
Yeah.
New York, and there's lots of bodies out there. But yeah, one of the characters that got more fame off of this movie is Tommy DeVito, Joe Pesci. And the funny thing is, the same year he did Home Alone, so it's like it just shows you the range of his acting ability, that he could do two completely different films and yet shine in both of them.
Yeah, and he also added like a lot of Tommy's character. He ad-libbed and he added like from what he thought would fit in, and this also.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And this is also a big strength of Scorsese. When you have so much self-esteem that your movie rocks, that you can also say, "Hey, I'm gonna listen to my actors." When they come up with something good.
Yeah, because he gave them input on coming up with new lines. Then whatever lines that he really liked, he will revise the script to make sure it's put in the movie. So a lot of the actors had that freedom to create new lines in the film. That like you said, Scorsese is a master at cinematography. He's a master at telling these stories, these compelling stories. Now I will say that when Casino came out, it almost felt like a Goodfellas version.
Yes.
Especially when Joe Pesci's character is basically the same as he was in Goodfellas.
Yeah, absolutely. But Casino is still awesome. I do have to say that maybe it is like with a lot of old directors, I was not able to finish The Irishman. It was way too long.
It's too long.
Too long.
And
also his new movie that comes out, I don't know if it's in cinema or another streaming service, is only like 3 and something hours long.
I liked the Departed that he did.
Departed was fantastic.
Yeah, we gotta talk that in the future, man. But another thing, I mentioned this backstage, but the introduction of all the crew, to me that scene was fantastically shot. The way they're in the club, and you see all the big capos, with their names being, Jimmy two times. I got that name. Yeah. Frankie the Killer. Who else? You got Fat Paul. There's so many names. Like I love
Michael Francese.
Michael Francese. Real life dude. There's so many things I love about that scene, and how the camera just goes around the whole area, just picking up each name. And then you see Henry bringing in the coats. Like, man, what the fuck I need coats for? It's summertime outside. I need suits. and another thing is, this movie really makes you want to talk like an Italian capo. You always imitate them. Just like Steve was doing with Sonny and Bronto. You imitate their movements and stuff like that, because they just have a certain swag about how they do things.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it always who I have the most pity for is always the poor Morris. And also we should not forget it's a very, very short and not the most not stereotypical role of Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh Lord. He got his payback in Jackie Brown with that. So, but yeah, this is one of his earlier roles. Small scene. He comes, get his brains blown out. That was it. But it's always cool to see actors in a small role, because one actor we mentioned backstage is who had a bigger role in Sopranos was Mike Imperioli.
Yeah, it was plays Spider in this one, and I also laugh, when in Sopranos, basically, his scene when he got shot in the foot, it's reversed when he shoots somebody in the foot, and then it's when he says, "Well, it happened."
And it goes to show you just how crazy Tommy was in this film. And the scene that always gets me cracking up is when he's being funny, telling jokes.
Funny how?
Funny how? And Henry is laughing his ass off, saying, "Tommy, you funny." And Tommy's like, "Funny how?"
Hey, Air Spider.
What's up, Air Spider?
Talking about Spider. I hope I hope you're not getting shot in the foot.
And then all of a sudden, everybody's quiet while Tommy is berating Henry.
Yeah.
And you could just feel the fear in Henry's face. You know, you could just see it.
The thing is, like, you know, even though when you're not in mob, you all know that one boy in school that you know is also like the wild card.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those are the ones you fear the most. But it's also like, I can say this about even with Al Capone and them, like, it's always the guys who are the shortest that have the biggest bite.
Yeah.
Those are the ones like, man, this dude's short as hell, but he had that fierce mentality that you like, damn, I don't want to fuck with him, man.
Ah, interesting. The Lufthansa heist.
Oh yeah, the heist. And you know what I like about the movie is that it don't show the heist.
Yes.
The heist is in the background. You see the before the planning, you see the aftermath of it, but you don't see the heist.
I think it's also so good because especially at that point, hey, K-pop.
What's up?
Because at this point in time, like their heist was like, you know, everybody know about the Lufthansa heist.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there was one of these big heists in history, so you don't have to show it. So it's so greatly done in the movie.
Yeah. So so well done. Albano. But yeah, another thing I really love about the movie is the introduction of Karen. and first Henry was like, because he got suckered into a double date because Tommy wanted to bang this Jewish girl, so he's like, man, I need you to join me on this double date because she bringing her sister. And Henry is just reluctant. He don't want to be there. Karen is sitting there trying to get some attention, and he's like, check please. He takes her home and stuff, and then they set up a second meet, and he don't even show. And this is where she comes in full blazing, yelling at him, screaming at him, and all of a sudden he's turned on by that. Like,
yeah,
it's
like, hey, it's like that girl has some balls, like not in the 2023 way balls, but like in the 1999.
He's like, I needed you to show this during the first date. Yeah. Now I'm gonna marry you. So it's like you just see how these characters interact when they first meet, and then you see the aftermath.
Spider, how did you get your comic collection? It's like you know, with CGC 8 point something slides blood stains.
Blood stains and all.
Like blood touch is a thing.
Yeah, so their introduction scene was fantastic for how different they were at the beginning, and then you see how they go through life, you know, and you start to question, like, did you really needed to get married? Because that kind of hurt him both sides, you know. You know, he's being more away, hanging out with the fellas, and then she has to be home raising the kids, and then she finds out he got a mistress on the side, and I'm like, ah, Lord. And I like how Paulie and them come in there and say, man, you got to handle the situation. You know, you gotta go back to Karen. You know, we can't have this. Because they know how a woman can thwart everything.
Yes, and
then when it comes to the family, you know, you got to keep your family in a respectable manner. Exactly,
because if you don't have your household organized, you have nothing organized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Social clubs. And everybody had a social club back then. Like, whether
especially before the internet, like, you know, like you always go where people hang out, and you always knew sometimes who the good guys hang out, who are like you don't want to be around with.
Oh.
It's good. Everybody's secret, like probably his didn't talk.
But yeah, I like another thing is while they all engage in
Biggie.
criminal activity. What's up, Biggie? I probably won't be on the show tonight, but I know he's gonna have a show, so definitely plug Comic Collector Club tonight at 9 p.m. That's a bit late for me, but
even later for me.
you know, especially when I ain't really getting no good sleep, so I'll probably end up going back to sleep. But I like how everything is explained on how they get their legal stuff, you know, through stealing, bribes. You know, Paulie had connections, and he controlled pretty much everything from the unions, the truck driver unions, and all the stuff. They get all the big shipments. Paulie will make sure to put Tommy and Henry there to get them shipments, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
So that's how they got all their supplies and able to make money off those supplies. It's a unique way of showing how, you know, you start up in the power and gain that respect, you know, through building yourself up without drugs.
This movie did such a fantastic job to really give you like a sort of as much of an insight as it can. So, you know, when you watch it, there's like no questions left. And despite that, it's not overusing, you know, anything, explanations, exposition, etc. It's just, it's really like, it feels like a glimpse into the life.
Yeah. You know, you get those glimpses, and you already know just how established they are. You know, and they run their organization the way see fit, especially with Paulie. You know, he don't move, but he knows how to run his organization.
Yeah.
And he knows how to tell people no and yes. You know, so I like that aspect of, you know, the hierarchy of how they run their business.
And of course, the local cops, they were just paid,
they were part of it.
Yeah, because they didn't have to watch the neighborhood, because it was what.
And when Henry was younger, he got pinched off the street for selling cigarettes, and they was able to go to court, you know, pretty much bribe the judge and stuff like that, and he got out without saying a word.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Biggie, Kindergarten Company. That's actually like a lot of brutal scenes in there. But it was like, you know, 80s kid-friendly movie doesn't resonate to nowadays kids-friendly movie.
Uncle Paulie, baby.
Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely top tier. Like when you think Ray Liotta films, this is the first movie that comes to mind.
It's really tough to, you know, it doesn't even matter if you like the genre or not. Goodfellas is, in terms of production quality, in terms of storytelling, like a perfect movie. It's so interesting that also my girlfriend watched it for the first time this month, and she was like immediately hooked. And then when she visited her mom, she watched it again with her mom, and like her mom also watched it for the first time, and she also loved it. So this is a movie that even transcends like its genre. It's impossible to dislike this movie, I think.
Like when you said she was hooked from the first 30 minutes, I'm like, the movie reels you in right from the start, and it never lets you go.
Yeah.
You know, and we said this movie is a brisk 2 hours and 40 minutes.
And the crazy thing is also, you know, usually when you have a movie that has such a mixed soundtrack, like a mixed score, so many songs from different genres, like from classical to just you know, traditional American music, and then it like ends with British punk like Sid Vicious, like My Way. And everything fits so well together. This is so rare, because usually we would say, oh, this is just like small spores of different genres, and like, how could you put this in one movie? But here it fits.
It definitely fits, and I like the fact that it spawned four. Because it started in the 50s, if I'm not mistaken. Then it went to the 60s, 70s, and the 80s. But the 50s is when they were as kids.
Could be.
It was in East New York, 1955. I remember the title.
Yeah.
But yeah, the that soundtrack was really great, and the variety of music from that era it fits, especially
Absolutely.
living that lifestyle, you know. And when they go to the Copacabana, like you see all that, and the plays there is just top notch. Like I said, Scorsese just did an amazing job with the cinematography, the directing, the soundtrack, the writing. Everything was well done.
It's the movie has such a perfect flow,
and it never feels boring. It never feels boring. Like most movies with that time length, there's always scenes in there that drag. But this movie, like, none of the scenes drag.
Yeah, even with the Godfather movies, especially the first two, they are awesome movies, but they're not. But they're pretty much mood movies. Like I know a lot of people who were not able to finish the first Godfather because they said like they couldn't watch it like past the wedding because it's like they started like there's just old men dance.
It's definitely a movie that you have to like be in a certain mood to watch the whole thing, especially Godfather 2. Yeah, that movie is longer than the first.
but it's also brilliant. But it really has to be. It's like, oh, you really have to sit down. Today, I want to watch like Godfather. But with Goodfellas, it's like the moment it starts, you're drawn in. It doesn't matter what is your mood. You want to watch it, or you can always put it on. It's a reference movie. You know, there's a reason why Scorsese is so celebrated, and he did a lot of fantastic movies, but this is like his magnum opus.
Yes, and so many great scenes in the film. You know, like when Karen comes to Henry and said, dude threw her out the car and stuff like that. He goes over across the street and beat the shit out of him with the butt of his gun. It's things like that that always sticks with you, Let's talk about Billy Batts and Tommy DeVito.
Get your shine box.
Bro, Tommy definitely was heated and he's hot-headed, but Billy Batts did that shit on purpose to egg him on. Yeah. Because he knew he was a made man, and that I knew him as a sign. Yeah. Let me just antagonize him.
Yeah. There was because he knew there was actually nothing he could do. Like because who would be so crazy to lay his hands on a made man? Like even if he would have just punched him, it would have been a death sentence.
Yeah, because he's a made man.
He's a made man, and you don't lay your hands on a made man. But
that shows you the mindset of him. He didn't care.
Yeah, he was not a long-term thing. It was more like very emotional.
And the fact that he's getting antagonized by Billy just proves Billy's point. Like, you're not even ready to be a top guy. Mm-hmm. Billy can antagonize you, but he's not going to like go out and try and do things to really put harm to you. He's just going to antagonize you. But the fact that Tommy took it so personal that he had to come back and beat him up and then take him in the car and like, yeah, we're going to bury him. I'm like, that is so unnecessary. But again, the character of Tommy is wild. He's crazy. He's unpredictable.
He's not somebody you want to be around.
No. And like even the scene where he was telling Henry, like, you think I'm funny? And stuff like that. And like right then and there, you like, I don't know if I'm going to be like super close with him. Because he can flip that switch and become a psychopath in the second.
Exactly. There are these crazy people where you say it's like, hey, at least he's on our side. Tommy, I don't even want to have on my side.
And it's funny because Jimmy was like that mentor at the time. He was the one that introduced him to Henry when they were young. So Jimmy always looked at Tommy as a son, similar to how Paul looked at Henry as a son. So when Tommy was in the process of becoming the made man, Jimmy saw that as a win. Because I'm like, now we got one of our own.
Yes.
We can't be made. Me and Henry can't be made because we're half Irish. But Tommy, now if Tommy gets made, it makes things easier for us.
Yeah.
That did not happen.
Yeah, I do have to say, like, to go back to the Billy Bat scene, also one of my favorite scenes in this movie is, when he just comes home, he thinks his mother's asleep and his mother's still awake, and of course she cooks for everybody, and
oh yeah, yeah, like she's up super late, but yet she got to cook a nice ass meal. I'm like, how late is it for you to have this nice, well-made meal prepared? I want a piece of that action with the food.
Yeah.
Hey, Tommy, I really don't want to associate with you, but your mom's be making great dinner. And then he looks at me like, "What you say about my mom?" So I'm like,
Yeah. It's actually so great because especially like in Latin countries like Spain, Italy, France, it's like that. Also in Eastern countries, Slavic countries, it's like that. In Germanic countries, you get jack shit.
It used to be like that here in the old days with my parents, because we used to go with my grandparents, and my grandma could cook up a meal, and my grandfather used to do it as well. Like he can cook himself, so we automatically knew Sundays was feast day. But then when he died in '88 and she died in '96, it was like that lost tradition. We don't keep up doing it.
It's sad because it's a really nice tradition, and I'm also trying now, even though I'm Germanic, I'm also when guests always like to have enough food. Because I know like one of my best friends is from Romania, and when we were teenagers, every time we visited there, like you always know it's like don't eat anything before. And the only problem was since I'm not drinking alcohol, when I was visiting and like everybody's like, here, drink a schnapps. Like, I'm not drinking alcohol. It's like, this is not alcohol. Like, it's like even like the most promille kind of alcohol.
And alcohol was not even an issue in the movie. Like we talked early in the month about Scarface and Al Capone, the Prohibition era, where alcohol was like the main thing. This movie, it's about smuggling and stealing and stuff.
And blow.
The blow came in the later part, and that wrecked Henry Hill right then.
I absolutely loved that scene. Is when they have the police raid and Karen like is in there, is like flushing the blow down the toilet, and later when Henry comes back, where's the blow? Is like flushing down it. The way he knows that everything is lost now. There's like no more. Like this was like everything that was like his money invested. It's like the way he broke down and cried, and he wasn't even mad at her anymore. He was just like he was just at this end.
He was done.
That was so fucking well acted.
It was, and he kept saying they wouldn't have found it, but he put it in the fucking cabinet.
They would have found it.
They would have found it. They want to tear that place apart to find anything.
But this also really shows, their frustration and the desperation and of him. So
I liked it, that whole sequence of that day where he had the helicopter and him riding around being paranoid and stuff. And we also get a little cameo appearance from a person you're gonna see in The Wire. Isaiah Whitlock. He was the doctor. He's saying, "Man, let me treat you," stuff like that. You're gonna like his slimy ass character in The Wire. But
we just talked about it last week. Finally, the fun thing is, last week I said it's not on Sky. They put it on Sky again, so now I can. I'm just started watching The Wire for the first time. After the stream, I'm gonna start with episode 4. So, yeah.
They would have found it, man. They would have found it, man. But that shows you his delusional. Like, they would have never found it. And I'm like, you don't know narcotics. They would have found it. That's their job.
Yeah.
To search and destroy your place just to find drugs.
And their stocks. They're very good at finding them.
So even if she didn't flush it, they would have had it. And you still would have lost 60 grand. But man, that right there like ended his association with Paulie. and then Jimmy had to cut ties in a more sneakier way, like because he didn't want to be associated with them no more, so he tried to set them up for certain.
Yes, that was so well done. Also when Henry knew, Jimmy never asked me to, hey, Jack. Like Jimmy never asked me to kill anybody, and then he knew when he was going to Florida, like
he's not coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole thing with Karen, he said, "Yeah, go in that store over there," and then she looks inside and she sees two guys, and shadowy figures in there. Yeah, I don't blame her for getting the car and getting the hell out of there.
Yes, but actually, it's really interesting because from the early HBO shows, I think you can have at least your like top 4 out of 5 drama series. My favorite series of all time is Rome, of course. Actually, I think you have top 5 because one of my favorite series is Rome. Then, of course, you have like Sopranos. Oz is so brilliant. Then you have The Wire, and of course you have Deadwood. Deadwood is like one of the greatest, especially like for the best drama shows. You can have like the really early HBO shows, all of them, and it's hard to beat. Nice.
Yeah, the way the acting was during that last half with Henry Hill, high on his kite with the drugs, and like
and
his
downfall. As we learned last week, never get high on your own supply.
That's like the top rule that always get broken. Always. Yeah. It's like they say you don't get high on your own supply. What do? Start snorting it. Bam, they high. And drugs will mess up your entire organization if you're the one doing it.
Yeah.
And that's what Paulie was like, get that shit out of here. I don't want you doing that shit. I don't want you selling it because that shit is gonna. One thing about drugs, not only you're snorting it and getting high off of it, but if you get busted, that's a huge offense. You getting put behind bars.
Yes, and this is when
you might become a snitch.
Exactly, that's when the birds start singing.
And they don't want that shit. The police didn't want that if he's gonna get busted, he'd rather get busted for stealing and bribing and all that stuff.
That's the other thing. It's like it's not like the mob doesn't like the drugs because it's bad for the neighborhood, but also because suddenly when doing the drugs, also the state sees them that they're not longer like as a necessary evil or like where you can look the other way. But when drugs are involved, then the state has to interfere.
Yeah, you don't want that in your organization. So the fact that Henry went behind Paulie's back and then got Tommy and Jimmy involved was just ridiculous. Like he should have just kept that shit separate to himself. Yeah. But once he got those two involved, that's why Jimmy wanted to whack him, because he's like, I gotta disassociate myself from him. Because now if Paulie finds out that I was associated with dealing drugs, it's going to fall on me too.
And if you learned something from the Lufthansa heist, is Jimmy doesn't like loose ends.
Oh. That's another thing. What the fuck? Yeah. I will be mad too if these guys are coming in spending big money on a damn car, fur coats, after we done did a heist.
Yeah, it's like...
I'm like, God, leave, man. You gonna go buy, and then you're gonna say, "Oh, it's my mother-in-law. That was the gift." I'm like, no, it wasn't. You spent money on that shit, and we just completed the heist. We supposed to lay low for a couple of weeks. What's the fucking point of laying low and you out spending money? Yeah, you have to cut off, and then. Like I said, we talked about Samuel earlier. How the fuck you leave the fucking getaway car and somebody's on the street? Yeah. You're supposed to take that shit out and get rid of it. Yeah. He deserved to get his brains put on his bed.
Yeah, that's also something that Michael Francese always mentions on his channel, that, when the cops play fair, it's a fair game, but when they play dirty, then there was a fair game.
Yeah, it's crazy how that heist just like it went off successful, and then guys are just breaking all the rules, and I'm like, and Jimmy was paranoid as fuck. And on top of that, he had Maury saying, "Jimmy, let me get my money. Jimmy, I need my money."
like Maury, it's like, you know, when you watch the movie in slow motion, you can see Maury digging his own grave over time, like.
And like, why are you gonna keep antagonizing for you? Like, I understand it. You are owed money. You want that money, but you gotta know who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And we see at the beginning of the movie, Jimmy was putting money in everybody's pockets.
Yeah.
But he wasn't putting money in Maury's pockets. But everybody got a piece of the cash from Jimmy.
Yeah.
But he's very peculiar on who he trusts.
Maury was not a specialist in reading the room.
And he should have realized that earlier, you know, when they strong on him.
Yeah, and then it's like basically Henry saving his life, and then Maury afterwards digging like a little deeper, and then he,
yeah, Maury had it coming. And I did like the scene where his wife came to Henry and Karen, and like, oh, where's Maury? He never comes home late and stuff like that. And like, yeah, he's not. He's dead.
He has a new home now. Yeah, Michael Francese's channel is so interesting. Like, so basically, it's like, you know, it's like one of these channels when you start one video and suddenly you like going there through the playlist.
Yeah, it's highly entertaining. But yeah, Maury had it coming, and what was his name? The one with the hair, like the little, like.
I forgot the name, but
he always remind me of Eugene Levy in this film, because he just like dumbfounded half the time. You know, when they kill Stacks, you know, Tommy made a joke like, "Make that coffee go," and then he's ready to take the coffee with him. Like, that was a joke, man. And then when they kill Maury, he like, we gonna chop his body up. Maury getting out the car like they gonna do it right there. Like that.
He was a very literal man. He was.
So when they found his body in the frozen, they like, damn, they had to let him thaw out for 2 days. But yeah, like everything from that point on, the movie, everything was falling apart for them.
Yeah. That's basically when, from the high point of getting the money, the movie transitions into like the low point when it's like, you know, the good times are over.
Yeah, y'all good fellas, but now y'all gonna become worse fellas after this. but it's just, again, it's like the movie tells the story in a brisk pace that everything that happens in between, you know, feels important. Like the whole Karen and Henry back and forth. You know, they're separated, then they're back together. She puts a gun to his face, you know, and he eases her into calming down. And then he beats her up and says, "Don't you ever do that again." It's like it's intense scenes like that sticks with you. And it's a credit to the people behind the scenes that just did an excellent job with this film.
Yeah.
So many great scenes in there, man. What other scene that you can bring up that we didn't talk about yet?
What haven't we talked about yet? Good question.
We talked about Billy Bats.
Yeah, Billy Bats. Then we talked about the helicopter scene a lot. You know, with his brother in the car, and you know, the hectic when you're always like spotting it, and he's like misjudging by his DA.
That was a lot of task for him to do. Oh, that fucking blonde that called on the phone when he specifically told her not to call.
Oh yeah.
And then when he's ready to take her to the airport, "Oh, I need my lucky hat. It's in rock." I'm like I can definitely see the frustration.
And I love to see those like at the police lady, you know, when they bring those like the blonde there, and she's like, There was such a great scene, and there was like the one cop like with the are we like thinking like are we happy, and he's like that.
They were shit talking the hell out of him, bro. They were shit talking the hell out of him. But I'm like, it just shows you that he had people who were incompetent, and she was incompetent to the point where she's going to make a call right after he told her go outside and make the call.
And this is, you know, when you get high and you're also blind,
I know
you're losing judgment, you're losing good judgment.
And I know you saw in those episodes of The Wire how the phone code. That showed that like how detailed these guys were, that they're using the phone code that the cops, even when they get the wire on, they can't transmit. I'm like, this is genius.
Yeah.
They don't use phones inside the house, which is why Paulie said, I don't use phones. We gonna communicate. You come to my crib, say what you say, then go and communicate with someone else. But don't use my phone because I don't have no phone.
And it's like so crazy when even nowadays it's even worse with smartphones. You know, when you look like in the Ukraine-Russia war, where like whole platoons are like eliminated because somebody posted something with a smartphone and they can locate it via that. So
yeah, it's nowadays you could easily be traced. The smartphones are traceable.
Yeah.
So like nothing is safe night.
It's always so funny, you know, when you hear these conspiracy theories when like, oh no, Bill Gates, he wants to plant like microchips in us. It's like, no, you're buying your microchips yourself. Like,
every piece of tech we have a microchip in.
Yeah.
So we're being traced all the way. Like I said, we gotta talk the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger with the clone.
What?
Shit. The Sixth Day, I think.
The Sixth Day, yeah.
We gotta talk that movie.
Like when I said screw yourself, I didn't mean it literally.
We gotta talk that movie because that movie had a lot of things in there. I'm like,
that was actually a very underrated movie. Might have been one of the last really good Schwarzenegger movies.
I agree.
Before he ate too much soy.
Yeah, because I wasn't. I like the collateral damage at certain points, but not the whole movie.
Hey, John. I had a great time with John last week.
I watched the replay.
Peace channel. And also yesterday, I still have to watch a rematch because I think it started at 3 a.m. here and I was already going to bed. He also had like a great show with Gary, which I'm going to watch the rewind this weekend. So probably a lot of books I'm not interested in. It's probably got a lot of X-Men books. It was fantastic being again live with John.
I know you and Gary B brought up, you know, my name change and how it still say Stay Puff. I was thinking after that, like, man, maybe I should rechange my channel name to Puff Comics and Movies or something.
Yeah, when I still had my channel, it was always setting up the live streams for Friday. I don't know how often I had to change it because I put the old name in it.
But yeah, this whole month I had set up in advance, so I set up all the films. So after this, you know, next week we're gonna talk 2 movies.
Yeah.
In honor of 2 actors. So go ahead, V, talk about that.
Yeah, first of course we're gonna talk about Switchblade Sisters because Madeleine Clark passed away, and then of course Jim Brown passed away. So we're gonna talk what the movie was. Slaughter. Yeah.
So she's in that movie as well. So we're going to honor them. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to talk 300. And John, VV has started on The Wire.
Finally started Wire. So I'm going to watch episode 4 after the stream. So I'm already hooked.
Already. So I told him after he completes season 1, we might have to do a stream just talking season 1.
So finally, when people are talking The Wire, I'm not just sitting there.
We talked the Mad Max
movies. We already talked the Mad Max movies.
When VV finds a way to get the videos downloaded, I'm gonna try and re-upload them on my channel. We talked about Thunderdome. I said about Thunderdome is we didn't get enough Tina.
Yes, Tina was the best part about the movie.
Like I needed more Tina in Thunderdome.
Yeah, it's so great. I forgot if she was already over 80. I always thought she was a little younger. But yeah.
We needed more Tina in that movie because when they did that second half away from the Thunderdome, I was like, ah, man.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, Goodfellas is a classic. No doubt about it. Goodfellas is a classic movie. It's a movie that can easily be watched any given time, any given day. And just watching it yesterday, I was like, man, I could rewatch it again.
This is, like I said, this is one of these movies that really transcends genres. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of movies you like, you will love Goodfellas.
Yep. And that's the thing, man. I can watch this movie all the time, and the quotes in it is just top tier. But
yeah.
So do you got anything to show?
Actually, this week, not. I mean, I got to do 2 movies. Sadly, one I have to send back because it was damaged. But another one. Also, movies we have to talk in the future. This is the first part. This is in German Caprona, das vergessene Land. It's like the land that time forgot in English, of course, with McClure. And yeah, I absolutely love this old dinosaur movies, and of course, this is Goodfellas is my favorite Scorsese movie. Absolutely. It's like it's also an Edgar Rice Burroughs. It is based on an Edgar Rice Burroughs novel, so
I like Goodfellas a lot more too. That's one of my favorite movies. Color of Money is good. I enjoy that, but for me, Goodfellas is like top Scorsese film.
Because Goodfellas is really, like I said, it's just from the production quality, from the storytelling, from the pacing, from the editing. It's just so flawless. It's smooth and flawless.
Yeah. But yeah, Goodfellas is definitely one of my favorites. And I've been wanting to go back and watch Taxi Driver. It's been a long time since I've watched that film. And
I've actually never watched Taxi Driver.
Oh, so that's on the radar then. You know, we gotta talk Taxi Driver. But you know, I remember like being like that movie's very bleak, and it really highlights 70s New York. Same with Mean Streets. You know, that's another movie with him and Harvey Keitel. Both of them are in both those movies. But yeah, I definitely want to rewatch some of his earlier films from the 70s.
Then with Taxi Driver, when WWE did the was it Eddie Guerrero or was it Batista who did the Taxi Driver skit?
I think it was Batista. Eddie Guerrero was in the Pulp Fiction.
Oh yeah, the Pulp Fiction. It was the Pulp Fiction one. And Kurt Angle was in a different one.
Yeah.
I think those were the best kiss that WWE ever did.
Yeah, back when they still were pretty good.
Yeah. But yeah, sadly you don't have books to show off because the post.
The package was supposed to be delivered today, but they say signature required, and I missed the time when they did show up, so I got to go to the post office.
So you gotta pick it up tomorrow, yeah.
I would have unboxed it today because I got an A-OK from my man BB here. But you know, I might save it for next week. You know, I'll get the package tomorrow and then open it next week. I
should have sent it one day early.
Yeah, because I would have went out and picked it up. But you know, knowing that the postman is still out, it probably wouldn't have been at the office. So
I know, yeah, it's always like, and usually they send you like, at least here is like with the app, with the post app, they send you, okay, you can pick it up, like a message. But yeah, you got a lot of Savage Dragon in there.
Nice. I gotta add those to the list. I'm probably not too far from completing the whole run.
Yeah, it's like they have a stack in there and some highly sought after ones that I got for cover price.
Sweet. And like I said, I gotta continue with the Savage Sword. I know you need to complete that run.
Yeah,
I have some in my cart on my comic shop, so nice. I definitely want to try and get those to you. And next weekend, I think June 3rd, I'll be down with Steve and them, because I think Ybor City is Ybor City Comics is having their like last little sale before one of the guys move away, because he's moving to Tennessee. So he invited a lot of us to come down and check out what they got. He got 2 piles full of comics.
Yeah, it's so crazy that meanwhile I know the comic shops you're talking about.
Yeah, so it'll be a fun next weekend. Plus the Comic Call crew will be back next weekend. And I do it every episode. She's live right now. Retro Nerd Girl.
Naturally, she is.
She's doing her, history of cartoons. Days of retro year on the cartoons, and she's killing it on the live stream. So I gotta give her a shout out. Plus, I did watch her Conan the Barbarian watch party.
Yeah, she also had a Carl watch party, which is also very much recommended. It's I still don't know how she finds the time to rewatch our videos. Like, she must have like some secret extra hours in a day, or she's like, I imagine like a Batman with thousands of screens, and she's watching everything simultaneously while she's live streaming.
Hey, hopefully she answers this on the replay.
Yeah, it's like, hopefully it's not like, oh, they know too much, like.
But yeah, she must props to her. She does comment on the replay crew. When I try and rewatch her videos whenever I miss them. But awesome, Retro Nerd Girl. Go sub her.
She's basically the best movie channel with the most detail on YouTube.
Yep. So that is it for this episode of Goodfellas, talking movies. We will definitely see you next week when we talk 2 movies, Switchblade Sisters and Slaughter. Looking
forward to it, especially since I know Switchblade Sisters is like a cult classic. I think it's a really cult classic. It's not too much talked about, since more people talk about, of course, Jackie Brown or Coffee from Hill.
Yeah.
But Slaughter I haven't watched yet, so I'm very curious about that one.
Yeah, that's a movie that people talk about it, but it's not like super highly revealed like a Shaft or Black Caesar. So it would be interesting, seeing Jim Brown in that film.
Yeah.
Like I said, Jim Brown was huge back in those days. From football to movies.
Running Man.
Running Man. So we'll be talking that next week. And me, BB, we hope you have a savage weekend. Taking his line. Later, y'all. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for being here.